The rain hadn't stopped for hours. Sheets of it slammed against the windshield as I drove down the lonely highway, headlights cutting through the darkness in thin, trembling beams. Somewhere up ahead, neon sign flickered. Havenwood Motel vacancy available. I squinted through the downpour, heart sinking with relief. I didn't care how sketchy the place looked. My car was soaked, my jacket clung to me uncomfortably, and I needed a bed, a warm one. The motel sat like a relic from another decade. Its paint was chipped, the parking lot cracked and overgrown with weeds. The kind of place that promised rest but whispered secrets in the wind. When I stepped into the lobby, the air was thick with the smell of mildew and old carpet. A single lamp lit the desk where a receptionist slouched like she'd been asleep for centuries. Her eyes, heavy and distant, flicked up as I approached. I reserved a room, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied me like she could see something inside my mind. Room 6 is occupied, she finally said, her voice flat and measured. I frowned. No, I reserved room 6. I need it. Her gaze sharpened. A flicker of something almost like fear roar, warning crossing her features. She hesitated. Room 6 is ready. But the last guest checked out hours ago. That should have unsettled me, but exhaustion won. I took the key she offered and thanked her, ignoring the chill that ran down my spine as I walked toward room 6. I noticed scratches along the doorframe. Shallow but jagged, like fingernails had scraped at it. I shook my head. It didn't matter. I was too tired to care. The key turned easily in the lock, but the instant the door clicked open, I felt the air change. It was heavier, colder, as if the room itself had been waiting. I stepped inside. The door shut behind me with a soft thud that sounded far louder than it should. Room 6 was small but orderly. The bed was perfectly made, the sheets crisp and white. A lamp flickered softly on the nightstand, casting long, wavering shadows on the walls. The carpet smelled faintly of damp wood. And something else, something I couldn't name. On the desk sat a small notebook. I didn't recognize it. Curious, I flipped it open. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting. Do not stay here. They never leave. Room 6 takes you. It knows your name. I tried to warn them. I tried to leave, but the writing stopped mid-sentence. I swallowed hard. The storm outside rattled the windows. For the first time, I wondered if taking room 6 had been a mistake. I set my bag down on the bed and tried to shake off the unease. After all, I was alone, right? But as I pulled the covers over myself and lay down, I couldn't shake the feeling that the room was watching. Waiting. Asterisk, I tried to convince myself the notebook was a prank. Maybe left behind by some previous guest with a dark sense of humor. I set it aside on the desk and went to the bathroom to wash off the rain and grime. The mirror was fogged from the heat of the water, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw movement behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Just the reflection of the small, sterile room. When I looked back at the mirror, something felt off. My reflection. It seemed delayed, like it wasn't quite following me. I waved my hand slowly, and for a fraction of a second, my reflection froze. Then, almost imperceptibly, it moved differently, as if it had a mind of its own. I shook my head. I was tired. I was imagining things. I sat down on the bed, trying to focus on the rain outside, but the room felt colder, heavier. The shadows from the flickering lamp stretched and twisted along the walls, as if reaching for me. Then I heard it, a faint whisper. So soft at first, I thought it was the wind, but it wasn't coming from outside. It was inside the room, all around me. Don't leave. Stay. Never leave. Stay. My heart raced. I stood up, looking around the room. The corners were empty. The closet was closed, The bathroom door shut. I tried to laugh, a hollow, shaky sound. It's just the storm. Just the wind, I muttered to myself. But the whispering continued, louder now, echoing softly, insistently. Like hundreds of voices overlapping. I turned toward the desk, and the notebook had moved. The page I had left open now had a new line, written in a shaky hand that wasn't mine. They know your name. They always know your name. You cannot leave. I froze. My name, my actual name, was written on the page. A sudden cold draft swept through the room, even though every window was closed. The lamp flickered violently, then went out, plunging me into darkness, and then I saw a shadow crouched in the corner of the room. Just a silhouette at first, but it moved, slowly, deliberately, toward me. I blinked. It was gone. I ran to the door, yanking the handle. Locked, the key I had just used refused to turn. Panic surged. I pounded on the door, shouted for help. But the motel was silent. The whispers grew louder, closer, circling me, surrounding me. Room 6 had already started to claim me. Asterisk, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the shadows in room 6 inch closer, pressing against my consciousness. The storm outside rattled the windows, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside the room. Around 3 a.m., the whispers returned. At first, I thought they were just echoes in my mind, but they grew louder, forming words I could almost understand. Stay. Don't leave. Forever. Stay. I bolted upright, my heart hammering. The shadows along the walls weren't still, they were stretching, writhing like living things. My eyes were drawn to the corner of the room, where I swore I saw a figure crouched, watching me. I blinked. Nothing. Just the dark, empty corner. But then the mirror caught my attention. My reflection wasn't mine. My movements weren't mirrored. They lagged, twisted, as if some unseen hand controlled it. I raised my hand slowly. My reflection didn't respond. And then it smiled. A low, a twisted smile that didn't belong to me. I stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the bed. My breathing came in harsh, uneven gasps. I could feel it. Room 6 wasn't just haunted. It was alive. It was aware of me, watching, waiting. Desperate, I grabbed the notebook from the desk, flipping through its pages. Each one was filled with frantic warnings from previous guests. Some scribbled in a panic, I could feel radiating off the page. They never leave. Room 6 owns you. Escape is impossible. I tried, but it took me. A sudden chill swept through the room, stronger than before. The lamp flickered violently, then exploded in a shower of sparks. I stumbled back, covering my face. When I looked up, the shadow from the corner had grown taller, darker, its outline no longer human. It moved toward me, silent, fluid, inevitable. The notebook slipped from my hands. I heard the whisper again, louder now, all around me. Welcome to room 6, I screamed. But no sound came out. Asterisk morning came, though it felt different here. The storm had passed, but the room remained dark, oppressive, like the sun outside had no power within these walls. My body ached, every muscle tense. I was drenched in sweat, and yet the chill lingered in my bones. The notebook was back on the desk. The pages I hadn't seen before were filled with names, dates, and desperate messages. Each entry told the same story. People who checked into room 6, but never checked out. Some had left frantic notes, scribbled warnings. Others gave in, as if the room itself had swallowed them whole. I needed proof. I pulled out my phone and tried to look up Havenwood Motel. Nothing, no official site. No reviews except for a few scattered warnings mentioning room 6. Strange. Almost like the motel existed in the shadows of the internet. There only to lure the next visitor. I decided I had to leave. I grabbed my bag, shoved it over my shoulder, and ran to the door. It didn't budge. I tried the handle again. Locked. I pulled harder, but it wouldn't move. The wall seemed to push back against me, heavy and alive. Panic clawed at my chest. I ran to the windows, locked. The blinds refused to move. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway outside the door. Slow, deliberate, dragging across the carpet. My heart jumped. I shouted, pounded on the door, anything, but the hallway was silent. And yet, I could hear the whispers, now mingled with soft laughter, distant and guttural. Desperate, I picked up the notebook again. In the back, there was a crudely drawn map pan exit hidden behind the closet. I hesitated, then opened the closet door. A narrow crawl space revealed itself, the air cold and musty. It looked like it led somewhere. The walls were lined with old, damp wood. Dust and cobwebs brushed against me as I crawled forward. The whispers followed, growing louder, circling, echoing off the walls. And at the end of the crawl space, a heavy, ancient door blocked the way. Behind it, I could hear the laughter again, low and sinister. I pressed my ear to the door. "Welcome," it said in a voice that was almost mine. I froze. Room 6 wasn't just trapping me. It had a mind. It had plans. I hesitated at the door, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. It creaked open on its own, slowly, like it was inviting me into the darkness beyond. The air inside smelled of damp earth and decay, colder than any winter night I had ever felt. The room beyond looked familiar, and yet wrong. It was room 6, but larger, distorted. The bed, the lamp, the desk, they were all there, but the shadows moved on their own. Curling toward the corners and flickering like living things, figures sat in the chairs, all facing me. Pale faces, hollow eyes, some clutching notebooks just like mine. My stomach turned. These were the previous guests, silent, broken. They didn't speak, but their eyes followed me, pleading and warning at the same time. One of them whispered in a voice that sounded like the wind through dead trees. "You can't leave. We all tried. Room 6. It owns you now." A sudden cold breeze swept through the room. My limbs stiffened. My body wouldn't obey me. My vision blurred, and then I saw it. A shadowy version of myself stepped from the darkness. Its movements were deliberate, unnatural. Its smile was wide, cruel teeth glinting that weren't mine. "Welcome home," it said. I stumbled backward, clutching the notebook like a lifeline. I realized then that room 6 didn't just trap people, it absorbed them, twisted them, created shadows to replace them in the world outside. I screamed. No sound came out. My voice was gone. The shadows in the corners writhed, whispering my name, circling closer. I understood with horrifying clarity. I wasn't just a guest. I was becoming part of room 6 itself, and the room was patient. It waited for the moment I would stop fighting. Asterisk, I don't know how long I've been trapped. Hours. Days. Time has no meaning in room 6. The shadows move independently, whispering secrets and voices I can barely recognize as human. I wandered deeper into the distorted room, my footsteps silent on the warped carpet. The figures the previous guests stared at me with hollow eyes. Some raised their notebooks as if begging me to read their words, to understand their fate. And then it hit me. Room 6 doesn't kill. Not in the way you'd expect. It consumes. It devours your identity, your memories, your very essence, until you're nothing more than a shadow and echo of yourself trapped forever. I tried to flee, but the hallways twisted impossibly. Doors led back to the same room. Windows that once showed the storm outside now revealed only darkness. endless, suffocating. My shadow appeared again, smiling with cruel familiarity. It whispered, "This is what happens to everyone who stays. You become part of the room, part of us, forever." I realized then that every guest I had read about in the notebook had become this: shadows, echoes, prisoners of the same nightmare. I touched one of the figures a former guest and felt it. Cold, hollow, empty. The life had been drained from them, replaced by obedience to the room, to its hunger. I understood the cruel logic of Room 6. It doesn't just trap people. It feeds on them, using fear and isolation to break them. Each guest becomes another piece of its power, another whisper in the darkness. And now, I was next. Time has no meaning here. Hours, days, maybe weeks, they blur together in the endless shadows of Room 6. I've watched the figures around me, once human. Now hollow shells repeat the same gestures, scribble the same warnings in their notebooks, then disappear into the darkness and the shadow. My shadow watches me. It knows everything I've ever thought, every fear I've ever hidden. It smiles because it knows I understand now. Room 6 doesn't just trap its guests. It doesn't kill them outright. It consumes them, every thought, every memory, every shred of who they weren't. There's nothing left. And the shadows, they are the remnants, echoes forced to serve the room, whispering warnings that never save anyone. I remember the notes. Some guests wrote desperately of escape. Some begged the next person not to enter. None succeeded. None left. Then the horrifying realization hit me. There is a way Room 6 moves on. It finds a new victim. That's why the motel still exists, why it keeps appearing on maps and in online reservations. The room's hunger never ends. It waits and selects its next guest. And now I am trapped in the process. The shadow whispered in a voice that was almost mine, "Soon, you will become one of us, and someone else will check in. Someone else will take your place." I tried to scream, but my voice was gone again. My reflection in the mirror. It was smiling at me now, a version of myself I didn't recognize. Room 6 is patient. Room 6 is clever. It doesn't just take you. It waits for you to give yourself willingly. And I fear I may not have the strength to resist. I refused to give in. I couldn't. I grabbed the notebook again, flipping through pages that were smeared with frantic handwriting and tears that weren't mine. There had to be a way. Something the previous guests had missed, or hadn't dared to try at the back. I found a ritual cryptic instructions involving the lamp, the mirror, and the notebook itself. The words were fragmented, almost pleading. Light it. Reflect it. Write your truth. Only then. May the door open. My hands shook as I set it all up. I placed the lamp on the desk, adjusted the mirror to catch its light, and scribbled my name in the notebook, repeating every word exactly as it instructed. The shadows reacted instantly. They writhed and shrieked, twisting violently across the walls, as if the room itself were trying to fight me. The mirror rattled, and my reflection stared back, twisting and contorting into faces of every guest who had come before me. Their eyes screaming warnings I could barely comprehend. A gust of icy wind tore through the room, knocking the notebook from my hands. The lamp flickered violently, then blazed with unnatural light, casting the room in stark clarity. For a moment, silence. I thought I had succeeded. I reached for the door. It turned, the handle moved. And then I stepped through. For a fleeting moment, I felt free. The rain outside pelted my face. The neon sign of the motel flickered in the distance. I had escaped Room 6. I woke up outside the motel. The storm had passed. The neon sign flickered weakly. The parking lot glistened with rain, and the lobby looked normal. almost inviting. For a moment, relief washed over me. I was free. I could leave this nightmare behind. I ran to my car, my soaked jacket clinging to me, heart hammering. I started the engine and glanced in the rearview mirror, and there it was, the shadow. My shadow, standing at the motel window, smiling. Not a reflection, not a trick of light, a dark fluid silhouette. The cruel grin stretched across its face. I floored the gas pedal, my tires skidding across the wet asphalt. Miles passed, the motel disappearing into the distance. I told myself it was over, that room 6 was behind me. But even as I drove, I felt it. Watching me, whispering, waiting. And then, days later, I realized the final truth. No one ever truly leaves room 6. Not completely. The room keeps a part of you. A fragment of your essence, your fear, your name. Forever tethered. I could hear it in my dreams. In the shadows of my apartment. Sometimes when I closed my eyes, I swore I saw flickering shapes moving just beyond my vision. Room 6 had let me go physically. But my soul, part of it would never escape. Weeks passed, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow seemed longer, darker. Every whisper in the wind carried a familiarity that made my skin crawl. Room 6 had left a mark on me that no sunlight, no conversation, no distance could erase. Then, one morning, a text message appeared on my phone. Unknown number. No area code. No name. Welcome to room 6. Your turn. My stomach dropped. The address that followed was familiar. Havenwood Motel. I stared at the screen, unable to move. Every instinct screamed to ignore it, delete it, run. But deep down, I knew the truth. Room 6 was patient. Room 6 never forgets. The shadows in my apartment seemed to shift. The whispers returned, faint at first, then growing louder. I realized then that my escape had been temporary. Room 6 had claimed a piece of me, and it would always find a way back. I had survived the night, but the curse would never leave. And now? It was coming for me again. The notebook lay on my desk, open, blank, waiting for the next words to be written. I picked up the pen, knowing my story wasn't finished. Room 6 was eternal. Thanks for watching this terrifying, scary story. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment "end" so that we could understand you were with us till the end. If you've ever had a creepy experience, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. As well as please let us know, where are you watching from? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Last but not the least, before leaving, please check out the horror story ebook. Link in the description. See you in the next one. Until next time, stay safe and stay out of the shadows. Good night.